Hello friends, welcome to our channel, History Chronicles. In the wake of the Reign of Terror, one name stands out as both a symbol of revolutionary zeal and a harbinger of its excesses: Maximillien Robespierre. The fall of Robespierre marked the dramatic end of a period defined by fear and bloodshed, and his downfall reshaped the course of the French Revolution. Today, we explore the rise and fall of this complex figure, whose fate would come to epitomize the tumultuous nature of revolutionary politics. By the summer of 1794, the atmosphere in France was charged with tension and uncertainty. The revolutionary government, under Robespierre's leadership, had pushed the nation to its limits. Robespierre, once a champion of the revolutionary cause, had become increasingly isolated. His radical policies and relentless pursuit of revolutionary purity had alienated many of his former allies, creating a climate ripe for political upheaval. Robespierre's influence had peaked during the Reign of Terror. As a member of the Committee of Public Safety, he wielded unprecedented power, overseeing the revolutionary tribunals and the widespread use of the guillotine. His speeches and proclamations were infused with an uncompromising commitment to the revolution's ideals, but this very rigidity began to sow the seeds of his downfall. The turning point came in the spring of 1794. Robespierre's grip on power had started to weaken as his methods increasingly came under scrutiny. The Law of 22 Prairial, passed in June 1794, epitomized his approach. It streamlined the judicial process, making it easier to convict and execute those accused of counter-revolutionary activities. While intended to safeguard the revolution, it also intensified the climate of fear and suspicion, further isolating Robespierre from the broader political spectrum. Robespierre's downfall was accelerated by his growing paranoia. He saw enemies everywhere, from political rivals to former allies. His insistence on purging the revolution of perceived threats created a sense of dread among even his closest supporters. The atmosphere of fear that Robespierre had used to control the nation now turned against him, as those who once admired his vision began to view him as a tyrant. The immediate cause of Robespierre's fall was a dramatic shift in the National Convention. On July 26, 1794, Robespierre delivered a speech that would seal his fate. In this speech, he condemned what he saw as enemies of the revolution and implied that a new purge was imminent. Robespierre spoke with fiery rhetoric, declaring that the Republic is in danger and denouncing the conspirators who were supposedly threatening the revolutionary government. He asserted that the people needed to be purified and that enemies were hidden within the convention itself. The speech was notable for its intensity and its direct threats. Robespierre pointedly mentioned that he held in his possession a list of these conspirators, but he refused to reveal their names. This tactic, meant to pressure the convention into compliance, had the opposite effect. Members of the convention saw this as a clear threat to their own lives and positions. They feared that Robespierre would use his list as a pretext to initiate another wave of purges, targeting anyone who opposed him. Robespierre's speech was a miscalculation that led directly to his downfall. The members of the National Convention, alarmed and dismayed by his aggressive tone and veiled threats, quickly decided to act against him. On the very day of his speech, July 26th, he and his close associates were arrested. The arrest was a dramatic reversal of fortune. The man who had once wielded absolute power was now at the mercy of his enemies. The following day, Robespierre and his allies were brought to trial. The trial was brief, and the outcome was predictable. Robespierre, along with his closest supporters, was condemned to death. The execution was swift and brutal. Robespierre was guillotined on July 28, 1794, along with several of his associates. His fall marked the end of the Reign of Terror and a significant shift in the revolutionary period. Robespierre's execution was not merely a personal downfall, but a symbolic end to a particular phase of the French Revolution. The Reign of Terror, characterized by its extreme measures and the pervasive atmosphere of fear, was now over. The fall of Robespierre allowed for a reassessment of revolutionary policies and led to the establishment of a more moderate government. In the aftermath of Robespierre's death, the revolution entered a new phase. The National Convention, now free from the terror's grip, began to dismantle the institutions of the Reign of Terror. The revolutionary tribunals were reformed, and the use of the guillotine became less frequent. The period known as the Thermidorian reaction saw a return to more moderate policies and a focus on stabilizing the nation after the tumultuous years of radicalism. The fall of Robespierre also marked a turning point in revolutionary ideology. The radical ideals that had driven the Reign of Terror were tempered by the need for political stability and economic recovery. The revolution's leaders now faced the challenge of reconciling their revolutionary aspirations with the realities of governing a nation recovering from years of upheaval. Robespierre's legacy is a complex and contested one. To some, he remains a martyr for revolutionary ideals, a figure who sought to create a just society, but was undone by the very forces he sought to control. To others, he represents the dangers of unchecked power and the perils of radicalism taken to its extreme. As we conclude this episode, it is evident that the fall of Robespierre was a pivotal moment in the French Revolution, a moment that marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. The revolution continued, but the lessons of the Reign of Terror and Robespierre's downfall would shape the course of French history for years to come. In our next episode, we will examine the Directory rule, the government that succeeded the Reign of Terror and faced its own set of challenges. Thank you for joining us on History Chronicles. The story of the French Revolution is far from over, and there are still many dramatic moments to come. Stay with us as we continue to unravel this complex and compelling narrative. See you next time.